Diddy is just a working class stiff while he's at Fort Dix.
So when you're at a prison and somebody says, you read any good books lately, Diddy is the answer.
He's the guy to go to because we got video of him at Fort Dix reporting for work in the library.
A man in a gray prison uniform, brown knit cap pulled low over his head to hide the gray hair he once would have never let the public see. He is standing inside a chapel, handing out movies and religious pamphlets to other inmates like he is working the front desk at a hotel. His scarf draped over one shoulder, a blue coat layered on top, and when he removes that coat, you see it clearly, the gray uniform, inmate number, no Rolexes, no entourage, no private chefs, just a man doing a job that pays pennies on the dollar inside a federal facility in central New Jersey. That is Sean Combs. That is Diddy. And the footage TMZ obtained from inside Fort Dix Federal Correctional Institution is one of the first real, unfiltered, close-up looks the world has gotten of the man who once ran the most iconic record label in hip-hop history since he was shipped off to serve 50 months behind bars.
The mother of Sean Diddy Combs waved to supporters outside of the New York courthouse, moments after her son was sentenced to 50 months in prison for prostitution-related charges in connection to drug-fueled sex parties known as freak-offs involving his ex-girlfriends. Combs' lawyer said they will appeal.
It is really a sad day for everybody.
I don't feel that way. I feel justice was served. He should be released.
Mr. Combs should be home.
But this video is only part of the story, because what happened before this footage, what happened at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, and what is happening right now with his appeal, his rule violations, his failed pardon attempt, and the AI-generated fake images circulating across social media, all of it paints a picture that nobody in that bad boy era could have ever predicted. Let me walk you through every piece of it. Before Diddy ever set foot inside Fort Dix, he spent over a year locked up in one of the most notorious federal facilities in the country, MDC Brooklyn, the Metropolitan Detention Center. That is the same facility that once held R. Kelly, the same facility that held Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell. And it became Diddy's home from the moment he was arrested in September 2024 until his transfer at the end of October 2025.
Sean Diddy Combs is locked up in a federal jail that has been plagued by harsh conditions and violence. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn has seen multiple deaths in recent years. An inmate was stabbed to death in July, and several others have died by suicide.
His lawyers described the conditions as inhumane, and they did not hold back. Attorney Mark Agnifilo filed a letter to Judge Arun Subramanian, claiming the facility routinely served food that was expired or crawling with maggots, cramped cells, no drinkable water, constant threats from other inmates. And that is not even the worst part. During sentencing, defense attorney Brian Steele stood in front of the court and told the judge that an inmate had approached Diddy with a makeshift shiv, a sharpened weapon, and a guard had to physically intervene to stop it. Steele said the man was trying to earn what other inmates consider prestige. That is the word he used. Prestige. Because inside those walls, hurting someone convicted on charges related to sex is considered a badge of honor. But the knife incident that made the biggest headlines did not come from the courtroom. It came from Diddy's close friend of over 30 years, Charlucci Finney. Finney went to the Daily Mail and told them straight. He said Diddy woke up one night with a knife pressed to his throat, not a metaphor, not an exaggeration, a blade on his neck while he was sleeping in his cell. Finney said he did not know if the guards showed up in time or if Diddy fought the man off himself, but he confirmed the incident was real. TMZ independently verified it with their own sources. Finney told the outlet that if the attacker had actually wanted to kill him, it would have taken 1 second, one motion, and Diddy would have been gone. Instead, Finney believed it was a message, a warning. His exact words were, "It was probably a way to say, next time you ain't gonna be so lucky."
At least if you listen to people close to Diddy, been the victim of violence behind bars. So there was an incident that we first learned about 2 weeks ago during Diddy's sentencing hearing, and he said, I was sleeping in my bed in the prison. It's a federal detention facility in Brooklyn called MDC Brooklyn, and there are federal inmates who are in many cases waiting for their trial as well. And Diddy claimed that somebody held a knife to his throat. He woke up and this guy basically had him, and he had the knife, and Diddy was at this person's mercy. Now, it's unclear what exactly happened from there. Was there a guard that came in? Did Diddy somehow fight this person off? Well, seems unlikely that happened. Or did the person just leave? Bottom line, this guy, at least according to people close to Diddy and Diddy himself, could have hurt him badly or even taken his life.
Think about that for a second. The man who used to throw the most extravagant parties in the history of entertainment. The man who had bodyguards on every floor, security at every exit, personal chefs and stylists and private jets. That same man woke up in a federal cell with a blade on his throat and nobody to protect him. That is what MDC Brooklyn was for Sean Combs. So when his legal team pushed for a transfer to Fort Dix, it was not just about rehabilitation. It was about survival. His lawyers wrote to the judge requesting that Diddy be placed at the low-security facility in New Jersey so he could participate in the residential drug abuse program and be closer to his family.
Lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs want him moved to a prison in New Jersey. Today, they filed a request for a transfer from the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center to the Fort Dix Federal Detention Center. They say that he'll have better access to drug programs and maximize family visitations while he serves the rest of his 50-month sentence. The Bureau of Prisons will have the final say.
Judge Subramanian recommended it, and on October 30th, 2025, the transfer went through. Fort Dix is a completely different world from MDC. The facility houses roughly 4,000 inmates in dormitory-style settings. It is considered low security. It has work programs, education, rehabilitation services. Former NBA player Sebastian Telfair is serving time there right now for defrauding the league's healthcare plan. Pharma bro Martin Shkreli did time there. Joe Giudice from Real Housewives of New Jersey served there. It is about as close to manageable as federal prison gets, and almost immediately after arriving, the footage started leaking. The first real videos of Diddy behind bars surfaced on November 23rd, 2025, when TMZ published clips taken from inside the facility.
Got video of him at Fort Dix reporting for work in the library, where he is making recommendations and handing out different movies and books for his fellow inmates.
I'm really fascinated just by the library itself.
But you're seeing him here. This is him reporting to work, taking off his jacket, taking off his scarf, and settling in for a day on the job.
It looks like a public school library.
Yeah.
It's
This was the chapel, and this is the media library in the chapel, which is where Diddy's currently working. He's working in a Life Connections program, which is an 18-month program that helps rehab people, get them closer to spirituality, to charity groups, and with that, it will shorten his sentence. But in this media library, he helps inmates with religious material, rent out movies, that kind of stuff. You see him pushing a
really
cart
interesting
with a TV on it.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the laundry room when he first got there.
Yeah,
this got to be
his first assignment.
This got to be a promotion.
Yeah.
It feels like a promotion. It feels like maybe he tried the lunchroom and put in a request for something different.
Yeah, it does it does sound like he used maybe possibly some connections to get a better job.
TMZ described the interaction as good-natured. Now here is the thing. Those videos were real, but around the exact same time, a flood of fake images and at least one fabricated video started circulating on social media. Some of them even had TMZ watermarks stamped on them to make them look legitimate. Diddy spokesperson Judah Engelmeyer went public and called them out directly, saying they were AI-generated fabrications. TMZ itself ran a separate warning to the public, confirming that multiple images and one video purporting to show Diddy laughing and holding a basketball in prison were completely fake. The AI problem got so out of hand that it became almost impossible for casual viewers to tell what was real footage and what was manufactured content designed for clicks. But the real footage? That told a story all on its own, and it was not flattering. Because while Diddy was handing out movies and settling into his chapel assignment, he was also racking up violations violations. It did not even take a full week. According to CBS News, which obtained internal prison documents, Diddy placed a three-way phone call on November 3rd, just 4 days after arriving at Fort Dix. That is a direct violation of Bureau of Prisons regulations. Inmates are only allowed to speak to one person at a time. Every call has to go through a pre-approved list. Here is what happened. Diddy called an unnamed woman and began discussing arrangements for a weekend visit. He told her to bring $200 in singles. That alone raised eyebrows because prison rules prohibit visitors from bringing cash other than coins for vending machines. Midway through the call, Diddy said he needed to speak with someone he described as the digital person about some blogs. The woman asked if she should add the person to the call. Diddy said yes, and just like that, a third party was on the line. When officials confronted him, Diddy claimed the call was with his lawyer and a head of legal communications. He said they were working on a statement to be sent to the New York Times. And then he dropped a line that has become almost a meme at this point. He said nobody told him about the rules. He said he never received the prison admission and orientation handbook.
We have now confirmed, I've got some information here. Number one, there was a three-way call. It was a personal call involving two family members. It had nothing to do with an article. It was a personal call with two family members, and he, according to this one source who is directly connected to Diddy, just didn't know about the three-way call restriction. So that's what this was about. Less here than meets the eye.
So was that family member going to give a statement to the New York Times, or was the New York Times
It was not about.
cover?
It was not about an article. It was a purely, quote, purely personal matter.
So the New York Times part, Derek, is in the documents, right?
Yes, but I think
So-
this also dovetails with something else in the documents, which is about the three-way call being about family visits, and it could be that phone call, right, where Diddy apparently said bring $200 worth of singles, and that could be an infraction as well because you're not allowed to bring paper currency. You can only bring coins for the vending machine. So now this is all starting to dovetail that this three-way call didn't have to do with a New York Times piece and wanting to put a comment in.
It was probably about bringing money.
Prison officials were not buying it. On November 4th, which also happened to be Diddy's 56th birthday, they filed a recommendation that he lose 90 days of phone privileges and 90 days of commissary access. But the phone situation was not the only problem. Just days earlier, TMZ reported that Diddy had been caught consuming homemade alcohol inside the facility. Sources said the drink was a fermented mix of Fanta, sugar, and apples. Inmates reportedly let the concoction sit for about 2 weeks until it turns into an alcoholic substance. Officials confronted Diddy and initially considered moving him to a different housing unit before ultimately leaving him in place. Diddy's team denied the alcohol report entirely. Spokesperson Judah Engelmeyer told TMZ that Combs was focused on adjusting and doing better each day, and that most of the stories circulating would be untrue.
Sean Diddy Combs is setting the record straight about his life behind bars. Following a report that said the rap mogul, who is serving a 4-year sentence for 2 prostitution-related convictions, was caught drinking homemade alcohol in prison, his spokesperson emphatically denies the allegation, telling People magazine in a statement published November 9th, there have been several false and reckless reports circulating about Mr. Combs. He has not violated any prison rules. His sobriety and self-discipline are priorities, and he is taking them seriously. The 56-year-old was recently transferred to a low-security correctional facility in New Jersey after spending over a year at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. At the new institution, he was alleged to have created a mixture of Fanta, sugar, and apples, which ferments into alcohol after 2 weeks, TMZ reported. The spokesperson continues, this is only his first week at FCI Fort Dix, and unfortunately, rumors will surface throughout his time there. We ask the public and press to give him the benefit of the doubt, the privacy to focus on his personal growth, and the grace to move forward in peace.
But TMZ sources pushed back hard, saying the alcohol report was 100% accurate. The cumulative effect of these violations showed up in the system. Diddy's original release date was May 8th, 2028, but when People magazine checked the Federal Bureau of Prisons inmate records on November 12, 2025, the date had been pushed back to June 4, 2028, an extra month. No official explanation was given. And here is where the story takes an even more dramatic turn, because while Diddy was adjusting to life at Fort Dix, he was also reportedly doing something that shocked people who heard about it. According to TMZ, almost immediately after his transfer, Diddy started telling fellow inmates that President Donald Trump was going to pardon him. He was reportedly bragging about it, saying it would happen in early 2026, telling other inmates he would take care of them once he was free. The Trump connection was not entirely fantasy. It had a real foundation. Back in May 2025, during the trial, Trump said he would consider looking at the facts if he believed someone had been mistreated. He acknowledged that Diddy used to like him before politics got in the way. By August 2025, attorney Nicole Westmoreland confirmed the defense team had reached out to the Trump administration about a pardon. October 6, 3 days after sentencing, Trump stood in the Oval Office and confirmed it himself, saying, "I call him Puff Daddy. He has asked me for a pardon." For a moment, it seemed like it might actually happen. Deadline reported in late July that the White House was seriously considering it. TMZ said sources inside the administration described Trump as vacillating on the decision. But MAGA media figures like Megyn Kelly started pushing back hard, warning that pardoning a man convicted on prostitution-related charges would alienate female voters and look like elites covering for each other. 50 Cent, who had been leading the public campaign against Diddy for years, reportedly told Trump directly not to do it. And then, in January 2026, the hammer dropped. Trump sat down with the New York Times and confirmed that Diddy had sent him a personal letter requesting a pardon, but he said he was not considering it.
News of the rejected pardon coming about a month after Diddy's legal team filed to appeal his sentence and conviction.
What we feel happened today was that the judge acted as a 13th juror, one that we did not choose, and that he second-guessed the jury's verdict. We think that that is unconstitutional.
It'll take months for the court to consider, and at this point, Diddy won't be free until 2028, just ahead of his 59th birthday.
We are not nearly done fighting, and we're going to win, and we're not going to stop until he walks out of prison a free man to his family.
When reporters asked for more details, Trump teased them, asking if they wanted to see the letter. He never produced it. The White House denied earlier reports that any commutation was under consideration, and 50 Cent went straight to Instagram. In a now-deleted post, he wrote, "What part of no don't you understand? I told him what you said. He was surprised. You said some very nasty things about him." That was the end of the pardon road for Diddy, but not the end of the legal fight. Because his appeal is moving at a speed that almost never happens in the federal system, attorney Alexandra Shapiro filed an 84-page appeal on December 23, 2025, arguing that the 50-month sentence was draconian and unprecedented for Mann Act convictions. She called the underlying law outdated. She accused Judge Subramanian of acting as a 13th juror by factoring in conduct the jury had already acquitted Diddy of. Her filing pointed out that defendants typically receive less than 15 months for comparable offenses, and the Second Circuit agreed to fast-track the entire process. Judge Beth Robinson approved expedited review. The government's opposition brief was due February 20th, 2026. Diddy's reply is due March 13th, and oral arguments are officially scheduled for April 9th, 2026. If Diddy wins that appeal, everything changes. He could be released, he could get a new sentence, the conviction could be overturned entirely, and all of that would happen while he is still sitting in a chapel at Fort Dix, handing out religious pamphlets and DVDs to inmates. Meanwhile, the outside world is not waiting for him. 50 Cent's Netflix documentary, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, premiered on December 2nd, 2025, and immediately became one of the most watched projects on the platform. It featured footage filmed on September 10th, 2024, just 6 days before the arrest, showing Diddy in a Manhattan hotel room, panicking on a conference call with his legal team. In one moment captured on camera,
just as not guilty. Like, I want to have a life to be able to live. It's really going to be hard for me to take more hits than I take it.
You didn't do anything wrong on any front, and you've come to New York to face things head on. If anyone's ever paying any attention to what you've actually been doing, you've handled this with complete honor. We're losing sight of the big picture, man. It's the middle of September and there's still no indictment.
Bro, then you have to have a spokesman. You have to have some sort of comms to constantly be pushing that, Mark. It's dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business of media. And propaganda.
Diddy's team called the footage stolen. They sent a cease and desist to Netflix on December 1st, calling the documentary a shameful hit piece. By the end of December, his representatives said they were still weighing whether to file a lawsuit. And while all of that plays out, the civil cases keep stacking. At least 3 men have accused Diddy of rape or sexual assault. A former male employee filed a sexual battery claim. Another woman alleged drugging and assault. And in February 2026, a Los Angeles judge allowed key claims, including sexual battery and false imprisonment, to proceed to trial. Forbes used to peg Diddy's net worth at over $1 billion. Current estimates place it somewhere between $400 million and $600 million. That is a 40 to 60% collapse in wealth in under 2 years. The empire he built across music, fashion, spirits, media, and nightlife is being stress tested from every direction simultaneously. So when you watch that leaked footage from Fort Dix, when you see the gray uniform, the knit cap hiding the gray hair, the man who used to control every room he walked into, now distributing movies inside a chapel, remember that this is just the surface. Underneath the footage, there is a man who woke up with a knife to his throat at MDC Brooklyn, a man who got caught making unauthorized phone calls and allegedly drinking fermented Fanta behind bars, a man who begged a president for a pardon and got told no on the record, a man whose own legal team accused the judge of acting as an extra juror, a man whose former friend turned his pre-arrest panic into a 4-part Netflix documentary that the entire world watched. And on April 9th, 2026, that same man is going to sit in a courtroom and find out whether the system gives him a second chance or sends him right back to that chapel until 2028. The culture is watching, the industry is watching, and whatever happens next will not be quiet.